I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay?
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to I'm Sorry, Okay, a podcast where we are watching so much Degrassi. I'm Mary here with Paul and LD, and this week we watched Season 1, Episode 9 of Degrassi Junior High, What a Night! This episode was written by Jan Moore, directed by Kit Hood, and originally aired on March 15th, 1987. In this episode, shoplifting almost lands Lucy and an unsuspecting Voula in prison. A dream date between Stephanie and a soap star turns into a nightmare. So, TV Guide was a little dramatic with this one. I don't think they almost landed in prison.
I don't think prison was on the table.
No, I don't think we had to be concerned about that. But perhaps it would lead them to a life that would eventually land them in prison. Who knows?
Lucy does call people fascist a lot, so I definitely believe Lucy would be like an ACAB, like, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
ready to smash the
abolitionist.
state.
Absolutely, yeah. Good for her.
You know what?
Yeah.
Good for her.
Just a quick content warning. This episode discusses both grooming and assault. If those topics are difficult or triggering for you, you may want to skip this episode.
So, yes, Lucy is like main character in this episode. We open on her at a department store. She sort of looks around and then she steals a purple scarf.
Dun, dun, dun.
That scarf, by the way, definitely came back into fashion in like 2003 when those super skinny scarves that were like shiny were like, they wore them a lot on Gilmore Girls. Lorelai wore a lot of like unnecessary, just like very thin pieces of fabric.
Scarves, and they would have like, some kind of like silver like woven. Like, I'm pretty sure either me or my sister like had this scarf in like the early 2000s.
I worked at American Eagle. We had the thin scarf. I believe I had two. Yeah, we looked great. Paired with like a corduroy blazer and some low-rise bootleg distressed jeans.
Yes.
I hate that I know this, but that is
All right,
definitely
so
the outfit.
over in Radich's class, they're getting ready for a spelling test, which will be 10% of their final mark.
It's crazy how many scenes we see a teacher claim that something that's happening in an episode is going to be like 10 or 50% of like a final grade.
Yeah.
It feels like the math is never on their side with this stuff. But also,
like, every assignment is so crucial to their grade.
But also, like, do you remember spelling tests?
I remember being bad at spelling tests.
Were you?
Oh, yeah. It was what kept me out of gifted programs.
Oh.
Aww.
It's fine. Everyone in gifted programs seemed like they ended up sucking, so.
Math was what kept me out of the gifted program.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, good for you. You did it. You escaped the gifted program.
Yeah, I did some kind of writing test, and apparently my story was not good enough for the gifted program. So we were all rejected by the gifted program.
This one goes out to the gifted program rejects.
I feel like every 2 to 3 weeks, there's like a kind of cycle on Twitter that talks about like, if you were a gifted kid, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. You're just describing every kid.
It feels like a lot of that was you had to have a certain kind of parent who was getting you involved in a certain kind of thing so that you ended up in the gifted program.
Definitely. And as we will discuss in this episode, I did not have that kind of parent. Hey. All right.
So Voula compliments Lucy's stolen scarf, So this is the scarf is like going to be a kind of a reoccurring theme in this episode. In the hallway after class, Steph is trying to convince the twins to go see Damon King, a soap opera star who is doing some kind of like book signing meet and greet.
Yeah.
And then in the library, the students are actually watching the soap opera that he's on, which I did not get to watch television at school. Is this something that happened for either of you?
No.
Well, yeah. We would like hide in a practice room and like watch something. Like we would just like steal a TV from. Yeah, like we would like kind of congregate, but they seem very out in the open to be watching what I would consider not really appropriate television for students. Like where is
very like salacious.
Yet again, where are the adults? Where's the librarian? Like I would assume you'd be able to hear the TV and the kids cracking up at the TV, and you'd wander over and be like, "What is?"
Well, yeah, because Joey and Wheels are being super loud and kind of like ruining this for everyone. They have
appropriately, I might add.
Have zero chill. Yeah, everyone's trying to watch some smoochies, but they're just kind of goofing. Which is also like, so why are they there? Is this like, are they all required to be there? Like, what is happening? There's no explanation for why they're all watching a soap opera in the library.
Like it obviously... It isn't passing period, right? Because like that's only like 5 minutes and they wouldn't have had time to set up and everyone to sit down and find the soap opera. I was like, is this study hall? Like what is this where they're all getting to watch TV at school? Because the only TV I ever saw at school was when it was like the week before Christmas break and we all watched like a movie, which by the way, like, can I just say, was like always a Holocaust movie. Like, what the fuck? Like,
I do remember I only saw Schindler's List at school.
Damn, you saw Schindler's List? We watched Life is Beautiful.
Ooh, nice.
Depressing.
Yeah.
Life is not beautiful for people in a concentration camp.
Also, they just like cram that in like, here you're learning. Teach yourselves about this.
I bet like right now the equivalent is like they make them watch 12 Years a Slave or something. Like I just remember being the only Jewish kid. So whenever we would have to watch like a Holocaust movie, everyone would just like crane their neck back and see what I was doing. And like usually I would just like bring a Discman and like put my hood up and not watch the Holocaust movie because I was like, I don't need this in my life. No. Like I'm pretty acutely aware of the Holocaust.
Yeah. You're like, I got it.
But basically, I didn't get to watch daytime television in high school or middle school. I guess we're in middle school, but like I did not.
This scene is inexplicable.
I love it. I love that there's absolutely no context for it whatsoever.
Well, so it's kind of furthering the other, narratives in this episode. So we see Lucy and Voula are talking, and Lucy's like says she's not worried about spelling because she's going to be a dancer. But Voula offers to help her because Voula is an angel who is also good at spelling.
Voula will offer to help anyone.
Yes, because she's truly a good person. She'll literally help anybody who needs help.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, Steph, do you need me to run your campaign? OLD, do you need me to like talk you through grief and your phobia of going to the hospital? Okay. Oh, hey, Lucy, do you want me to like teach you spelling? Got it.
To teach you spelling and give you the attention that you so desperately need. Which we'll get to. And then also Steph is still obsessed with Damon King and meeting him at his meet and greet and trying to get the twins to kind of go along with her. So next scene, we're over at Lucy's house and Voula's helping her study, but Lucy is bored and she says it's her right to flunk if she wants to, which I will say I definitely related to that statement. Lucy's mom calls and says she's still tied up downtown. She could be another hour.
Woof.
Lucy's dad is also working late. Her mom suggests that they get pizza. And then, of course, after this call, Lucy's just like officially overstudying, and she's like, it's time for a makeover.
Yeah, okay. I wrote in my notes, can I just say, I was the Voula. I was also like the girl that everyone always wanted to make over, and it's not actually like a very nice thing to offer someone. like I know on TV that basically what happens is that like Voula takes off her glasses and then suddenly like the jock wants to date her or whatever. Like obviously not on Degrassi, but you know what I mean? Like conventionally that's supposed to be what happens. But like I remember being in I think study hall, and like this girl that I was friends with just pulled a pair of tweezers out of her backpack and just started tweezing my eyebrows. And I will tell you, it was the late 90s. It was not good, and they did not grow all the way back. Like, but everyone was always like, ooh, if you just let me do your hair, ooh, if you just let me like pluck your eyebrows. And it's like, damn, just like let her be, man. Like,
Yeah.
I have never been part of a real life makeover montage.
it always sucks. It's a lot of performative femininity.
I've definitely like done someone's makeup, but
But
that feels
yeah.
a lot different, and that's usually been because someone else brought it up.
Yes.
Or in a way of like, oh, do you want me to like do your makeup because we're going out? It's always more fun and not like, let me help you.
Yeah, like I feel like the narrative here is that like they have like a symbiotic relationship. Like Voula is going to help Lucy with school, so then Lucy is going to help Voula be
Right.
cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yes. And so the result of this makeover is that Lucy has dressed Voula in like leopard print pants, a black tank top, and a scarf. And Voula is super into it, and she says she wishes she had more interesting clothes. Lucy says she can borrow some, but Voula says her parents won't let her be sophisticated because they're kind of old-fashioned.
Yeah, and then I mean Lucy is like, my parents are perfect. They buy me whatever I want, and they're always working, so they're never around to bug me. And obviously we know that she's projecting here. She's
Yeah,
projecting here.
she's-
She does
She's
not
trying
think
to,
any of that
like,
is good.
Yeah, she's trying to make it sound positive. But Lucy even asks her, or Voula even asks her, I think, like, she's like, don't you get lonely?
Oh yeah.
And Lucy's just kind of like, nah, like, whatever. Like, she kind of, like, blows it off. But Voula, I think, kind of immediately sees through this. Like, she is actually pretty close to her family. And she's, like, hearing her out. But I think that Voula is very much like, this doesn't seem like a good situation.
Yeah, totally. And then Lucy tries to get Voula to stay for dinner, like kind of
Mhm.
like begging her to stay for dinner. She's like, you know, my mom's a
gets
gourmet
awkward.
cook. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
Voula's like, oh, my dad makes us have supper together. And Lucy is like immediately just like, that's boring. You know what I mean? But like obviously
Yeah.
like Voula wants to go home and have dinner with her family because that's what she does every night, and that's nice.
Right.
But like Lucy's very
Um,
much like acting out here by like trying to make Voula feel like that's like boring or like a stupid choice because she
Well,
doesn't have that and she's jealous.
Right. She's jealous, and she just doesn't want to be alone. Like she's
Yeah.
getting ready to spend another night alone. She literally just doesn't want her to leave because she doesn't want to like be alone.
My
Um,
parents did not trust me to be alone at home for this amount of time when I was that age. What about like were you guys just at home?
No.
Not in the evening, no. Like definitely like latchkey kid, but I also had older sisters. So somebody would always be home. I would maybe be home alone, but never like at night or like getting a phone call like fend for yourself kind of thing.
Totally.
I mean, we would definitely have nights where everyone was fending for themselves for dinner, but we would all be there together kind of thing. Like, yeah, no, not this sort of like actually feeling alone.
We're all fending for ourselves together.
Together.
I mean, I guess sometimes I have that kind of thing now. Like Sam and I are on different schedules, and so maybe
Right.
I'm working a bit later, he's working a bit later, and so like one of us is making like a quick like spaghetti or something. You know what I mean? Like I like yeah,
Mhm.
the every man for himself together.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, definitely that experience, but no, not my parents were not like working late.
No, like I mean, what if they like went out of town for like a night? Did you guys have to stay
Either,
with someone, or did they have someone stay with
yeah.
you, like your sister stayed with you or whatever?
When I was really young, I would maybe stay at my aunt and uncle's, or one time my parents went on vacation and my grandma came and stayed with us. And then but when my sisters were in high school, I probably would have just been, they would have watched me or whatever. Or sometimes I had like an older neighbor. If my parents were like going out for the night, an older neighbor would like come over and hang out. What about y'all? Because Paul, you're the oldest.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Paul, what was the situation at your house?
Yes, we would just get sitters, and then I guess by the time I was in middle school, I probably would have just been the one in charge. My parents didn't really do a lot, so I don't have too many memories of like them
Neither did mine.
not being around. Like that didn't really come up. Like my parents went to like they went on vacations and stuff, and
What
so
about
yeah,
Bunko?
Yeah, I was just about to say,
Or wait,
your
no,
mom
what's
played
that
Bunko.
game? Is
Yeah.
it Bunko or
yes.
what's the name of that game they play?
Well, and then they would have Koinonia group, which I still don't really actually know what that
what it
word
is either.
means.
Is that a Bible thing?
I think it was like something through their church. Yeah, so we would like get sitters for that, I guess. I really don't even remember. I think actually with Koinonia, sometimes people would like, it would be like encouraged to bring your family. I don't know. I definitely do not have memories of like my parents not being around for more than like an evening, or it would just be like they went on vacation.
Or like not knowing when they were going to come home and getting calls saying it was going to be later and later.
Yeah, definitely not an experience that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, my parents had an office that was in our house. It was on like the top floor of our house. And so even if they were working late, they were just like upstairs. So that didn't usually happen to me, but my parents did like go out to dinner with friends or whatever. I don't like at that age, I think that my mom still did not have me alone for even like an evening. Like I think that it was like, because I'm so much younger than my brothers were sort of the same age as like the other kids in the neighborhood. So like the other quote unquote kids in the neighborhood were like 10 years older than me. And so they would then become the sort of de facto sitters. Although my mom was very careful to never call them like a babysitter. She would just be like, oh, Heather's going to come hang out with you.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that was cool. That's like how I discovered like Incubus and the Blue Meanies and just like some bands.
Yeah.
It was really, I think my mom sort of like tricked me into having babysitters. Like she was like, this person likes stuff. You
That's
guys can
cool,
hang out
though.
and talk about this.
You don't need someone to necessarily like feed you and take care of you at that age, but you need someone there in case something happens, right? You need an adult around who can handle a situation that might come up. Like possibly a risky situation.
Oh. Oh, a risky situation, you say? Is that our segue?
Yes.
Well, I still have more to say about the scarf. So
Oh.
on Voula's way out, Lucy lets her borrow the stolen scarf. Since it's not that weird looking, her parents probably won't freak out, but they still might. And so this is sort of like, it's almost like foreshadowing because now Voula is wearing this stolen scarf, but she has no idea.
I mean, her dad freaked out at her wearing like an exact color match of her skin tone lipstick. So I can't imagine he's going to be like super excited about a sparkly, like a flashy scarf.
We know that hot dad can be a little dramatic.
He can be mad dad.
Yeah, he very quickly turns into mad dad. So after Voula leaves, Lucy's mom calls again and says she's still tied up downtown, but there's sushi in the fridge. Lucy eats the sushi and cries.
That was a big mood for me.
Eating sushi while crying.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that's very on brand for me. Although, honestly, in my house, sushi does not make it to the fridge.
Yeah, like this uncovered sushi sitting on a plate in the fridge. Like, yeah, yum, cool.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. That rice is going to be dry.
Ugh.
That's true. And also, I was like, wait, what happened to the pizza?
Yeah, why didn't she
What
just
about
order
the
a pizza?
pizza idea?
Order the pizza and have it sent to the house. What the
I feel
fuck?
like I'd rather cry into a slice of pizza than crying onto my sushi roll.
I feel like I've done both.
Some cold, dry sushi.
Tears and sushi and scene. The next day, leaving Radich's class, Lucy is thanking Voula for helping her study. Steph is dressed in a skirt and a tube top for the Damon King book signing. She is determined to meet him, but doesn't have a book, so she's going to have him sign the newspaper ad instead.
Brilliant.
It's paper. It works.
Yeah.
So now we're at the actual like meet and greet. They're kind of watching him sign other books, and he's kind of giving everyone a little kiss on the cheek. And so it's finally Steph's turn. So when she walks up, Damon King asks her age, and she says she's 16. And he says, "Sweet 16." And then he says, "One autograph, one kiss. That's my policy." And also he has written his telephone number on her newspaper ad. And then he winks at her. Oh, no.
4 red flags. 4 just like giant red flags.
I just really wanted to get through all of them at once because it was just a very quickly escalating situation.
A deluge.
First of all, how old are you? Second of all,
Ooh.
16. Third of all, the phone number. And fourth, the wink. Like, all of this is gross. I would just like to add, and I'm sure you were on the edge of your seat wondering this information. What is the age of consent in Canada? It is 16. So that's also
barely legal.
Really.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Disturbing.
I mean, how old is this guy? He looks like he's like 35.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's an established like soap star. And yes, and this dude is very like 80s good looking. He just looks like an absolute creep. Like the casting, like looking back on the casting, it does not work because he just
Wait, you think it doesn't work the way he looks? I think he looks like a perfect creep.
But he looks so obviously creepy. But maybe that's
good.
just
What?
because I know
Yeah,
I'm watching it as an adult.
Yeah,
He's
I
supposed
think
to look obviously creepy.
No,
hope he
I
looks
think-
Well, and when they
obviously
watch his
creepy.
performance, he's really terrible actor. I'm just like, would
Love
would
that
they be
too.
obsessed with this man?
Yeah, I'm actually this is the thing that I'm most shocked by. I'm like, I'm sorry, a bunch of 14-year-old girls think this guy is hot.
Yeah, I mean I rarely get it with these kind of guys, so I feel like all of this like dramatization is like perfect.
Like, who was the Jonathan Taylor Thomas of 1987? Find him. That
he's
too.
not, yeah, he's not like a teen heartthrob.
No.
He's a full-on adult man.
I still like that for the purposes of a TV show. Like, why would
Right,
they?
and if he was also a teen, it wouldn't work because then they
Yeah.
would be like two teens.
Look, we're supposed to be learning a moral lesson here,
It's true,
and the
it's true,
lesson
it's true.
is these guys are always gross and creepy.
Yes.
Okay,
Also,
yes.
his book is called Confessions of a Soap Star.
I love it.
Sure.
No notes.
Okay. So back at school the next day, Radich is handing back tests along with sick burns for each student.
Yeah, I was just about to say, can I read out
Yes.
all of his
Please
commentary?
do.
Okay.
Yes.
Heather, very good. Erica, not up to your usual standards. Joey Jeremiah, I didn't realize you knew Swahili, which by the way is both rude and racist.
Yeah.
And Lucy, very good, a real improvement. Let's hope it continues. Like, honestly, this guy needs to stop announcing everyone's results to the entire class. It's so inappropriate. I know I say this like every episode.
It's just so rude.
It's really bad.
Down with Radich.
Down with Radich. We all agree. And then Raditch is also the first person out the door for the
his
weekend.
ass is running out the door.
He's like, bye.
His face is like pressed against the glass as the bell is ringing.
Listen, if you were one of only 2 adults working in this school, wouldn't you just be like
You're like-
working for the weekend?
You're like, I gotta get out of here before there's some teen drama. So the twins are talking to Steph again about this whole, like, Steph is like saying she wants to call Damon King, and they're like, we don't really think you should call this adult man, which is reasonable.
I think Heather is supposed to be the uptight one. She's being, in my opinion, very reasonable. Erica is being like, this is so romantic.
A little bit more later, I think they're both kind of like, you're really gonna call him? And then the closer we get, the twins diverge into like angel on the shoulder, devil on the shoulder, like kind of
strong
scenario.
Gemini energy here.
I missed this earlier, but yeah, like when they're getting ready to meet this guy, they're all joking about how they're like young and in love with this guy, and so they're like
acting.
on this,
They're acting very dramatic, like playing out this like romantic scenario. So Lucy wants to repay Voula by getting her some new clothes, but Voula is like, I don't have any money. But Voula is too naive to understand what's about to happen. Okay, so then we cut to the first parking lot of this episode. Where Steph calls Damon King from a payphone, and Erica thinks it's romantic, and Heather is creeped out and says he's a strange man. And she's like, if your mom finds out, you won't just be grounded, you'll be buried.
She's
which
like,
I thought was funny.
Isn't he a little old for you? Because also he's like, oh, I'll pick you up at the record store, because of course in Toronto there's only one. Also a strange place to meet, maybe a record store that is not open, and then
and
also
it's specifically away from her house.
Yeah, and then also he says he's gonna take her to like a TV studio and show her how like a TV studio works, and Heather's just like, isn't that a little late for a TV studio to be open?
Yes, yes.
This is when we get our very first "You're just jealous."
You're just jealous. I'm not jealous.
Oh.
Yes. This is such a recurring mantra on Degrassi from junior high all the way through. It's like, I even remember being like a young kid and like some girls were bullying me, and my mom was like, they are just jealous of you. And I remember just being like, of what? I don't think that's true.
Definitely that scenario. Also, like, yeah, anytime a girl is trying to warn another girl about something, they get a, you're just jealous.
You're just jealous. We'll see it come up a lot in Next Generation, but I just wanted to, some of these things are things I want to track like throughout the entirety of the Degrassi run.
The universe.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a go-to classic for avoiding good advice. So now Lucy and Voula are back at the same department store from earlier, which feels like a rookie mistake for a thief.
Bush League. Bush League.
Voula finds, so they're kind of like looking around at stuff, and then eventually Voula finds a sweater she likes, and Lucy puts it into her bag and tells her to be casual. Voula is very much against this because it's wrong.
But also very like loudly. Is like, what are you doing? Like she gives big,
She's
like
so obvious.
She's blowing it.
Yeah.
Voula is the kind of person that would like maybe be talking at like a dinner party and someone would kick her under the table and she'd be like, why are you kicking me?
So 2 things really quick. One, even quicker, my outfit of the week is when they first cut into the store, we get this beautiful pink rabbit sweater that is on display. I need this fucking sweater. 2, yes, regarding Voula saying some dumb shit and not getting the hint, been there, done it. I was at a record store once where they sold bootleg tapes, and I got a really good like bootleg live tape. And I went back and they were gone. And I was like, hey, what's the deal? Where are the bootleg tapes? And the guy at the counter is just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, no, there was a whole row of bootleg tapes. And it took like, I don't know, somebody to just like literally kick me and be like, bro, they're gone.
That is a classic Paul reaction.
Wait, what's the deal? What?
Where's the illegal stuff, guys?
Look, I'm going to loudly announce this until it manifests itself, okay?
Incidentally, that sweatshirt is also my look of the week.
Yes!
Well,
I'm
my
so
look
glad.
of the week also is in the scene, but it's actually Voula's outfit. It's not the most exciting outfit, but like we were talking about like at the beginning of the episode, it's just such a classic like early 2000s look that I was just like personally very into it. I related to it. I was like, I have worn this outfit, so it's got to be my look of the week.
I like the sweater that Voula picks out too. I would buy that from a thrift store.
Yeah, it is a good sweater.
They're probably selling it on ASOS like right now.
Yeah. So Lucy and Voula are sort of like arguing about this sweater. Lucy says it's okay as long as they don't get caught. They continue, like they're kind of making their way out of the store, still arguing, continuing to argue on the escalator. Lucy gets fed up and like hands the bag to Voula and is like, fine, then you can take it back. And Voula's like, well, now it's too late. And then they get caught by security.
I would like to say that as Voula is telling Lucy to like put this sweater back, and Lucy's like, no one's seen us, and they're going over to the escalator, this lady pulls out a walkie-talkie with the longest antenna I have ever seen. It is like a meter long because they use the metric system in Canada. And yeah, I'm just like, I love this lady. I don't think she was supposed to be like an undercover like shrinkage expert or whatever, but that used to have to be my job when I worked in like a makeup store. It was
assets protection.
I worked in the perfume section, and there was this lady who had been coming in for a few months, and she would come in with a baby stroller, and she was like leaving with like 10 bottles of Chanel No. 5, like that she was putting underneath the baby in the stroller and just leaving. Oh. And so they asked me to like, please start monitoring theft. But honestly, like all it taught me was how to get away with stealing. Like multiple retail places that I worked basically would teach you like how to know that someone is stealing, and here's how people steal. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, if you want to steal from Target, you have to be caught by a person in the store that's monitoring the floor. You have to be caught on camera, and the security manager has to be there. Just so, you know, that's just some information.
American Apparel, I don't know if they still do, but they used to, those like detectors at the door used to be non-functional. They were just there for like decoration, I guess, or like to deter people. And they used to have a no chase policy. So once you got over the threshold of their entrance, you could take whatever you wanted. And I applied for a job there, and they told me I was both too fat and too ugly. So I stole like $500 worth of American Apparel merchandise. And I just like, I kept some of it, and then I like gifted some of it to friends, and then I sold some of it on eBay or like at Plato's Closet or something.
This was a lucrative experience for
Honestly,
you.
Not an endorsement. You should not do this. But if you're going to do it, don't get caught like Lucy. And maybe don't bring a friend who's going to be like, why are we stealing in the middle of the store?
Basically, don't bring me.
Yeah, definitely don't bring Paul if you're planning on doing some shoplifting.
Well,
No.
maybe don't surprise people with a shoplifting trip to the store.
It's kind of messed up that she's like, she puts Voula in this situation, and yeah, Voula's kind of blowing it, but then she just hands Voula the stolen ass shit, and it's like, well, here you go, and it's like, oh, yikes, bro, like she basically framed her. Which
It's just like,
cool.
girl, have you met Voula? Like, she is a sweet, innocent summer child. What do you think is going to happen when you try and get her to shoplift?
She said her fucking parents and her have dinner together every night. Like, this girl is not ready for prime time.
Yeah, no way. Lucy is like, has like kind of wandered over into free Winona territory. She's like rich and still shoplifting for attention. Yeah. And, you know, Voula's just like a nice kid who's probably like if she found a $20 bill on the ground, she would totally try and return it. She would like turn it into the police.
So Lucy hands the bag to Voula, and then they're like running down the escalator to like try and escape the security.
Lucy tells her to run while they're on an escalator.
Poor Voula.
So they're running down the up escalator, and then they see somebody like, like standing in their way. And so they stop running. And I just love this. To me, it felt like sort of comedic where they're just slowly going up the escalator in failure. And Voula just has this dead stare at Lucy the whole ride up. And even as the like security officer is like, you ladies are coming with me or whatever. Like just the unbreaking eye of Voula. It's like piercing.
I mean, Lucy should feel bad.
Yes.
She should feel bad for putting her friend in this position.
Well, as we've also seen, you don't want Voula mad at you.
Yeah, dude. Homegirl holds a grudge.
The Voula grudge.
Even when they're, let's be clear, very well deserved. Often.
Yeah. Always.
So over in another parking lot, Steph is dressed like a fairy princess for her date. She's wearing like hot pink leggings, her hot pink leggings classic look, but with like some kind of tulle skirt over it and a red puffer jacket.
I actually love this look. It's very like, it's Valentine's Day kind of color palette. I love it. It borders on look of the week. I definitely think we should showcase it.
I think we just couldn't, it was hard to get a full, like we don't know what was going on under the jacket.
It's true.
I think that was the only thing holding it back, but it is like a very good look. And these do seem to be her date leggings. She's never successfully gone on a date in these leggings, but she always puts them on in preparation for a date.
I love that they repeat outfits on Degrassi. Like, I love that Steph isn't being shown as someone who's just got like an endless wardrobe. Because this is the thing, is she's hiding this wardrobe from her mom. Yeah. And so obviously she wouldn't have tons and tons of clothes like this. So I do love that they have her kind of repeating these pieces of clothing.
Yeah.
So they also show while she's like waiting or whatever, they show some guy walking out of the record store and he like weirdly checks her out, which a good creepy touch.
He's like, "Oh, look at that hot tulle skirt."
Maybe.
It's so glittery. Okay. So
maybe he just wants to know where she got it.
Perhaps.
It's a look.
I'm also curious.
Yeah.
So Damon picks her up. He's in like a Corvette or something.
What is this, car talk?
I wrote it down as his I need to tell the world about my penis car. That was my note.
Exactly. So yeah, he picks her up and he says, "Let's you and me go have some fun."
Red flag.
We got 5 so far, I think.
That's not gonna be fun.
That's number 5.
All.
Red flag.
I mean, actually, no, because we forgot about all of the other red flags in her payphone conversation. So we get the 4 red flags at the bookstore, but then the red flags of like, here's where I'm meeting you, here's what time, here's where I'm telling you we're gonna go, and also I'm 8,000 years older than you.
Yes.
And I think it's fine that you're 16.
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16.
So back at the department store, a very cute security guard is scolding Lucy and Voula.
Why is the security guard so hot?
I don't know. She's just like, she's killing it though.
She's gorgeous, but she is a bad actress.
I
was like, did they get a
badass?
I was like, did they get a real security guard to do this or something? Because honestly,
I can't remember. I think they actually reused this actress. I feel like I saw that somewhere, but I don't remember where I saw it. But I think they reused this actress for various tasks.
Is she always scolding?
I believe so.
I like that. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have like a hot older woman to scold you.
Tell you you're bad.
Yeah.
Damn.
So
in her little outfit.
Her little outfit. She's got some big old like glasses, kind of like messy bangs. Like, yeah, just very good all around. But then the sergeant shows up and he recognizes Lucy. And he's like, "You again? Looks like you brought a friend this time."
ACAB.
ACAB.
I was just like, are you serious? You called the police? Like the whole anti-shoplifting message is when you steal, the store has to raise prices and people have to pay more.
Oh, yeah. That's what the security guard says.
That's what the hot security guard is telling us.
Which is like, do you think these teenagers care? Oh, other people have to pay more money?
The capital.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, like, I did a bit of, like, looking into this because I wanted to know, like, for a small business, I understand, but this looks like a major department store. And so I kind of wanted to know, like, what is it that they sort of put aside as like loss? You know what I mean? Like, what do they assume they're going to lose when because obviously most stores have so much stuff they never sell and they don't lose any profit from that. So I was kind of looking into that. I couldn't really find much because everything was basically just like, don't steal. But I'm just like, I'm interested in that. You know what I mean? Because obviously, like, every big business has to account for a certain amount of theft, of loss, of damage. You know what I mean? And so I was just like when Lucy was telling Voula, like, it's fine that we're doing this. Stores expect to lose stuff. I was actually kind of like, she's right.
Yeah,
she's right. And she should say it. Like this giant department store probably isn't going to crumble at the hands of a 14-year-old stealing a sweater.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying this is like an okay thing for her to be doing. It's more just like it was obviously like it was a message that they were trying to send. You know what I mean? Like they wanted the viewer to know.
Repeatedly stolen from this store. So it kind of makes sense that they're calling the police on her at this point or have before because I guess, this is like
Lucy needs to diversify her portfolio because honestly, like, you don't hit the same store twice.
Yeah, exactly.
I love all the advice that we're doling out in this episode.
It just feels like amateur hour, man.
We're trying to help people avoid getting into risky situations.
If there's anything I want people to learn from this podcast, it's how to lie and how to steal. And I feel like we've really been covering that.
Lying is fine as long as there's a little bit of the truth in there.
Yeah.
Stealing is fine as long as it's from an evil corporation.
And not like an individual person.
Yeah, don't steal from a person.
The ethics seem clear.
It's pretty obvious.
There are many Degrassi plots where like someone steals something from their friend, and that's where I'm like, ooh.
Oh yeah, that's totally different.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I kind of can't wait till we get to some of those.
Well, you'll have to wait.
Oh my God, eat my ass.
So over in a motel parking lot.
Red alert! Red alert!
Damon pulls over to talk, says, I don't bite, and don't be so nervous. You're not afraid of me, are you? As he sprays Banaka and then starts getting handsy.
Double red alert! Banaka! That's like...
Dude, Steph is like, I thought we were going to the studio. He's like, I thought we'd just stop and talk for a bit. I don't bite. And it's like,
Steph.
Oh,
God.
Cringe, endless
We're at
cringe.
like 1,500 red flags at this point.
Jesus Christ.
Situation critical.
Buried in red flags.
It's like so many red flags. It's like an episode of Double Dare where you have to go through the obstacle course and like get them out of like the pool of goo.
Collecting all the red flags.
Damon's face is the pool of goo.
Oh,
seriously.
Yeah. So Steph says, actually, I think I want to go home. And Damon says, you know what this is all about. And Steph kind of gets out of the car. She threatens to scream. And then she says she's actually only 14 years old and told all of her friends she was going out with him, so he better not touch her.
And he books it, man. The second she says the number 14, he's just like, bye-bye.
Magic number. And then this adult man finally decides this is more trouble than it's worth and ditches her in the motel parking lot.
He's like,
never to be seen
she's
again.
14. I'm not going to assault her.
He keeps it legal, okay?
Honestly, that was helpful context that when you mentioned the age of consent in Canada. So I guess that this scene makes a different degree of sense in some way.
I mean, not really. Okay. I mean, yes, but no. Like, age of consent to me is such a strange concept. Like,
oh yeah.
I was reading about Amy Fisher recently. Do you guys remember Amy Fisher, who was like, she was like 17
with
dating
Joey Buttafuoco?
Yeah, and didn't she she
shot
his wife
in the head, but she survived.
She did survive, but like people,
and they called her like the Long Island Lolita.
Yes, exactly. I did not even have to tell this story. You know it.
Sorry.
But, no, I love it. I love this. But like, people talk about her like she was like a grown woman. She was 17 years old. And it's like,
right.
The age of consent is such like a weird, arbitrary, clearly made up by like a cis man like rule. And I feel like even at 16, like you are not old enough to know what being in a relationship with like, or consenting to, a sexual encounter with like a grown adult human man implies.
Yeah, I feel like that's why when the laws are more so like within an age range, like individuals needing to be within an age range or whatever, it seems like it just makes more sense because like, yeah, it's like, well, sure, 16 is the age of consent, but that sort of is implying for other 16-year-olds.
Yes.
Like, it's not necessarily, that doesn't mean that for like someone in their 20s or 30s that then it's okay for them to be dating someone who's like 16.
I will say, like, I'm very proud of Steph in this moment. Like, I feel like a lot of her storylines throughout this season have been about her kind of giving in to pressure. And I feel like it would have been very easy to do another storyline about that. But in this episode, it feels like she's finally able to be like, no, I don't want this. I'm not comfortable in this situation, and I'm going to remove myself from it.
She like levels up, like total badass moves. Because I mean, because she thinks that it's one thing the whole time, and so she's just she's just like trying to have a good time or whatever. And as soon as it becomes clear that they're not on the same page, she's like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah, well, good for her.
He's manipulating her.
Yeah.
He's like grooming her and he's like manipulating her. And so, yeah, she finally has like a really strong reaction because she always seems a little bit like wishy-washy about how far she wants to go with like boys or like in this case, like with this like man. But then when she's finally confronted with the situation, she has a very strong opinion of like what she does and doesn't want to do. And she's like not into this at all.
Definitely.
So back at the department store, Lucy tries to take the blame, but they both still get taken down to the station. So back to Steph, she calls her mom from the motel, asks her to pick her up and to please don't be mad. And she's kind of crying at this point. At this point, I think it's all kind of hitting her, like what just happened and what could have happened. And so she's kind of like crying and but she is like reaching out to her mom like for help in this like moment. And she's being honest too. I think she's just like, I made a mistake, like we'll talk about it later, but she's not even trying to really hide what happened. I think because she's so freaked out that she actually like wants her fucking mom. Like classic, like, right? This is the thing that she's always trying to push her, like create a boundary between her and her mom. But in this moment, she like wants her mom, I think.
Yeah. And I think that this is kind of later we find out how her mom reacted. And, I think that this is sort of an example, unlike other examples with her mom, where we see that like, if you're willing to listen to your kid and maybe not approach something with like heavy judgment and, kind of so much authority, maybe like they will come to you, they will open up to you. And you can have like the kind of relationship where, yeah, if she's in trouble, she can call you. And
I feel like a lot of parents do try to have that, like, like you can always call me for a ride home with like no questions asked if you need to. I feel like that became more of a like this is the way to kind of deal with these things with your kids.
Yeah.
Like the best case scenario is to be like, if you have a problem, you can call me and you won't get in trouble, so that your kid isn't afraid to actually like come to you if they're in a situation like that.
Definitely.
So over in the police station, Voula's cutting one of her classic promos.
I'm sorry I ever helped you. I used to think you were sophisticated, but you're just dumb.
Voula's parents come to pick her up, and like her mom is also there, so it's mom and hot dad. And we kind of hear like some of what they're saying, which is basically like no more Lucy, like they're really disappointed, whatever. And then the cops can't get a hold of Lucy's parents, and the cop tells her that he'll have to charge her this time. And so Voula is like mad, but I think she's also just seeing like her parents have shown up for her, and like, you know, Lucy's just about to like, Lucy's alone and she's about to like get into like serious trouble. Like she doesn't get to go home with her parents right now.
Yeah. Her parents are not picking up the phone. They are not there for her when she needs them.
It's like a moment of like realizing privilege, and like, you know, it seems like Lucy's maybe more affluent than Voula, but like Voula has like a close knit family like unit, and that's like a real thing that will like help her.
Money doesn't buy love or attention from your parents.
Whoops.
So at school the next day, Steph is telling the twins about what happened the night before. And, you know, she says that her mom gave her that speech about not getting into risky situations. And they're all sort of like, oh, right, that speech. And they tell her that she was really lucky that nothing worse happened.
It's true. And I also like that Steph was like, yeah, this time I feel like I really listened. You know what I mean? Like,
right, like her mom, she kind of said she and her mom had that talk before, but this was the first time that she really listened to what her mom was saying.
good for Steph.
I have plenty of like memories of like my mom telling me like various things like along these lines of like how to protect yourself in various like situations, because it is a thing, like women face specific threats, and you know, you often have to kind of advocate for yourself in those situations.
But also I feel like part of what they're saying here is it's hard to like contextualize some of those things that like parents tell you when you're younger.
Right.
And you have to fuck up in like a certain way for it to like make sense, and then listen and whatever.
Just like sometimes it's hard to understand the context of those warnings until you've been put in a situation where you really understand the risk.
Yeah.
Like as a teenager, it's easy to be like, oh, that guy's really hot, I want to go on a date with him. But then once you're on it and you realize that there's a very skewed power dynamic to it, and you realize that there's the possibility of sexual pressure, you know, you start to understand why you've been advised to not put yourself in these sorts of situations, because when they're hypothetical, they sound cool, but then when you're in them, they just seem scary.
Yeah.
Right. Like she doesn't know how to see like all of the things that we're pointing out as red flags. We know from like either our own experiences or from hearing about other people's experiences. You like start to know like what to look for and how to like trust your instinct when your instinct is telling you like this doesn't feel right, but you don't know what that feeling is. Or like, you know, I think that, you know, sex in general is very abstract for Steph, and she hasn't really known what that really feels like, to feel that kind of pressure of someone like wanting to do something with you that you're like not at all into. So now she's like learning how to like recognize those feelings and like kind of listen to them. She knew, her instinct told her. It almost seems like almost as soon as she got into the car kind of and they started really interacting, it seems like she pretty quickly was like, this doesn't feel right.
They showed her getting uncomfortable and just being like, why are you spraying Banaka, bro?
And he touched her knee.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What?
So at at school the next day, Lucy apologizes to Voula and tells her that she has to go to court. Lucy says her parents said that she's a spoiled brat after everything they've done for her. They have to take family counseling, but she says her parents probably won't find the time. And so Voula first says she's not allowed to talk to Lucy anymore, but then, after Lucy's kind of telling her like everything that happened, she asks if she wants any more help with school. And Lucy's kind of like, well, I thought you're not allowed to talk to me. And Voula's basically just like, oh, my parents will come around. Like, I'll talk to them. And so I think that, like, Voula comes into the situation kind of hot. But then when she just hears about, like, Lucy's parents just, like, kind of scolded her. And, like, they didn't really care. Like, they're still not getting, like, Voula can see that, like, Lucy is hurting, and like her own parents can't see that. So I think like Voula ends up being pretty sympathetic here.
Voula's amazing. She's such a good friend. Because I think, in sort of contrast to her conflict with Steph, where Stephanie just kind of was being selfish and sort of she was a weenie. Lucy is clearly like acting out of a certain amount of pain and neglect, and I think it's very clear that like Lucy at her heart is like a pretty good person, but just isn't getting any kind of like love or attention at home,
right?
And so good for Voula for being able to like see that.
And then we have a little freeze frame on Lucy smiling
with her braces.
A
little brace face.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Can't relate.
For me, definitely Voula. I would find myself in a situation like that and just like be like, I mean, we already discussed this. I would just be like, wait, what's going on that's illegal? We're doing something illegal right now?
I related most to Heather, who was kind of trying to warn Stephanie she was putting herself in a very bad position before she put herself in the bad position. Like, I feel like I'm often skeptical and trying to be like, this seems like it might not be super safe or like a super good idea.
Yes.
How can I dissuade you from doing this?
I also related to Heather for the same reason. I think everything is a bad idea. I'm often suspicious of men and their intentions and would love to warn you all about it as you plan a terrible date that will definitely not end well.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I am
Heather coming through with a personality finally.
Yeah,
A distinct
Heather,
personality.
not unlike myself and also you, is the like dump him meme.
Yes, absolutely. And then basically her "I told you so" was like, you're lucky that nothing worse happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like she didn't actually say "I told you so," but she had the energy of "I told you so."
Yes.
Yeah.
So friends, what did we learn today?
I learned that you can't always assume to know someone based on your perceived notion of them. Some people have a lot going on in their lives that makes them do the things that they do, and sometimes people are just gross creeps.
I learned that even an independent and cool, well-adjusted kid like Lucy still needs love and attention from her parents, and neglecting them will probably lead to a bit of acting out.
Accurate. All right, so I think this was supposed to be an episode about learning to try to avoid risky situations. Voula went along with Lucy's plan without really asking any questions about what they were going to do, even though she knew that they were going shopping without any money. And then Lucy put herself and her friend into a risky situation with the police because she, is just kind of desperate for attention, but only ended up kind of hurting herself and her friend. And Steph never really thought objectively about the situation she was getting into. You know, like, what would she think of an adult man going on a date with a 14 or a 16-year-old if he wasn't a celebrity? But the conversation that we hear about between Steph and her mom about risky situations is also sort of victim blaming by putting the responsibility on her to avoid these situations rather than on the adult man who's like trying to manipulate a child. But women are like often left to advocate for themselves, so it's also a relatable conversation between a mom and a daughter and between a group of female friends. And today we might see Steph share her experience as part of a Me Too campaign against Damon King, because those conversations are kind of moving beyond a circle of friends as women, you know, continue to try to protect themselves and like other women.
I think also this episode really looks a lot at like parents' reactions to their kids' decisions, and like sort of showed us different levels of availability in parents, you know what I mean? Like how available to their kids they are when their kids need them. So like Steph's mom came when she needed her, despite the fact that her mom is pretty strict, and despite the fact that, like, you know, she probably was pretty heavy on the judgment. She still didn't ground Stephanie for the rest of her life. Voula, you know, her parents came even though they were so disappointed and upset, and obviously like they're telling her you can't see Lucy anymore, but they still did show up. Whereas Lucy's parents throughout so far the entire series, you know, because on the night that she had everyone over basically to pregame for the dance, her parents weren't there either. And so we're seeing that this is a pattern, and we're seeing that Lucy's parents are kind of like never there for her big moments. You know what I mean? Like a lot of parents would have wanted to take pictures before a dance or something. Her parents have never been present. And so we're seeing what that level of availability means for Lucy and her behavior as she gets older.
Yeah, and it sounded like, you know, Steph thought she was just going to get in trouble, but then her mom actually had like a real conversation with her. So she was sort of in trouble, but in the way where your parent is like, this makes me feel very afraid for you. Like, it's not a like, you're too young for this or whatever. It's more of a like, this is really dangerous, and like, you need to like watch out for yourself in this situation because I'm not always going to be there for you. But her mom is still kind of talking to her as more of an adult. Voula, yeah, also felt like she could talk to her parents about what happened to Lucy, but yeah, Lucy just kind of has, you know, Lucy has like no kind of starting point with her parents because they're just not there. That's it for What a Night. Next week we're watching Smokescreen. You can see some of our looks of the week on our Instagram. I'm sorry, okay pod. Okay is OKAY. You can send us an email. You can hit us up on Twitter. And that's all. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.